Hopefully at some stage somebody will come up with a magic answer of how to help things. But in the meantime, we'll just keep out there doing our best, trying to help as many people as we can.
Northern Ireland, once home to the highest suicide rate in the UK. People in Northern Ireland are estimated to experience 20 to 25% higher levels of mental health illness compared to the rest of the UK. In the last 4 years, the number of lives lost to suicide in Northern Ireland increased by more than 30%. Yet around 70% of people who die are not known to mental health services.
It's been, unfortunately, another year challenging year for us in number of incidents and stuff. We're over 200 incidents. We're over 20 people recovered from the water. We've had 3 bodies. That's just this year, so we're still needed.
One of the charities working around the clock to prevent suicide in Derry is Foyle Search and Rescue.
We've been around so long now that it's kind of hard to imagine what it would be like without it. But it's definitely a key organisation within the city.
The volunteer-based charity was set up in 1993 in response to an alarming amount of drownings in the River Foyle. Ever since the charity began, it has adopted the role of preventing suicide in one of the fastest flowing rivers in Europe, the River Foyle.
The work that they do in Foyle is just so crucial. Incredible amount of people whose lives have been saved by the work of Foyle Search and Rescue, and so we owe them a huge debt of gratitude.
From a Department of Health point of view, from a Minister of Health point of view, the services that Foyle Search and Rescue actually provide for the local community, the families in need, are vital in our response and how we actually support the people of the city and of the North West.
It's nice to be appreciated, but I don't think any of us do it for praise or pats on the back. That's not the purpose of the charity. The purpose of the charity is trying to help people who need us. We're still needed. The instance of what we deal with over the years, I don't think has lessened any. Yes, there's more people willing to help, there's more services out there, but it's still ongoing.
I'm Jack Dillon, I'm 21. I joined Foyle Search and Rescue about 2.5 years ago, in October of 2018. I work outside of Foyle Search as an ambulance care assistant, full-time. My role in Foyle Search and Rescue is I'm an auxiliary volunteer and a member of the education team.
My name is Gerard. Most people in Foyle Search call me Jerry. I've been on Foyle Search since 1998, so it's coming to my 23rd year. Probably been out for maybe a year over that time, so probably 21 to 22 years service with Foyle Search. I head up the education team and I help out with fundraising where I can. It was a community-driven plan where there was a lot of suicides within the 18 months previous to Foyle Search started. One of the founders, a man called Gerard, his brother had entered the Foyle, and he and a group of his friends went out searching for his brother. And through that, they decided that they would go out and try to stop other ones entering the Foyle, try to stop other families from suffering the same sort of tragedy or trauma they had. People just went and phoned for help, then they got a land of a boat, then they got coats, and they got radios, and then they eventually got a jeep. So Foyle Searches grew over the years. When I first joined, there was probably around 50 volunteers. We shared gear because we hadn't got enough. Now we've all got our own individual gear. We have 4 boats, we have 6 vehicles, we have 80 volunteers. So things have grown, but it's taken the initial steps back as far as 1993 for the charity to grow to where it is now.
It was always an organisation that I seen out patrolling, and I always thought it was a good cause. And I said like if I was still living in Derry long term, I would join up. And then once I realised that I was able to join at 19, just for even the fundraising, I said I would do that for the meantime until I was old enough to become operational, which I've been operational for about 6 months now nearly. Just within the months before I joined, I lost a friend through suicide, and I've lost a couple of members of my family through suicide, so it was definitely a driving force as to why I joined. Just thought, rather than sitting back and just letting it happen, I would go out and try and help in some fashion, and I thought Foyle Search was a good avenue to do that. We are on call 365 days a year, 24/7. So if we are in the base and a shout comes in, it will usually come in via the radio, or the pager system will be activated. If either of them things happen, an alarm will go off within the base. They let any pager team know that are in the base that there is a shout. First thing they'll do is come straight out here. They all carry their individual pagers on them, so that will give them a message as to what kind of incident it is and where it is. So they'll start getting equipped with their dry suits, their PFDs, helmets, and then they'll immediately make their way out here, get any other equipment they need, radios, throw lines, things like that, and then straight on the boat. We don't have a team in the base at all times, so a lot of our guys are coming from their houses, places of work, things like that. We usually would have the kind of thing from bed to boat in under 10 minutes. If you're doing that, you're doing quite well. So yeah, we get equipment and then straight on the boat, and we're away within seconds really. And then we have a treatment area here in case if we bring someone out of the water and the ambulance is on way, we'll treat them here for a while first. Again, just using our FREC volunteers, and we have an EMT here as well, just to provide that pre-hospital care. So we have our big FREC responder bags, oxygen, Entonox, and then as we come over here, this is where we would come to get our equipment before we go out on a duty night. So we have thermal imaging cameras here, an AED, first aid kits, throw lines, binoculars, torches, and our radios.
Emergency response team, which is on 24/7, 365 days a year. They have been split up into teams, and they go whenever they're paged. Most of the guys have permission from their employer, where if they're needed, they can go. They respond to 2 areas. They respond to Perhend with a boat here, and they respond to a boat at council offices. So they're teamed on the side and the water side. But these guys sacrifice so much, and girls sacrifice so much, where they could be at a wedding, they could be a Christmas dinner, they could be whatever. If the pager goes, they go, and they're out for as long as they're needed. They're the best fellas, like, and the girls, and there's plenty of them. And they see all the truly traumatic stuff, because they're at when the pagers go, it means somebody either in the water, or unfortunately there's a possibility of a body. So they deal with the real traumatic stuff. I think a lot of people from Foyle Search and Rescue and all organisations have people who went through some sort of trauma in their own lives, where they've got a bit of help, and they're now in a position where if the need arises, they can help others. Me primarily, my reason for joining Foyle Search was I go back to, I think it was 91, 92. Where I was coming across the top deck of the bridge and I seen somebody in the water, and all I could do then was go to a phone box at Duke's and phone for the police. By the time I had returned to the spot, the person had gone. So I couldn't really do anything about it, but I still remembered. I went off to England for a number of years. When I came back from England, I kept seeing the people walking about the town in orange coats, and I seen the articles in the papers about an organisation set up called Foyle Search and Rescue that came together as a public response to the number of suicides in the Foyle. And when I came back from England, I decided I'd like to join the organisation. That's why I applied, and I joined then. Primarily it was me being in a position to help people, whereas before I couldn't. Lots of things have changed since I joined Foyle Search. When I first came into the charity, there was very few life rings in the town, and most of them unfortunately were vandalised and stolen. Now we have around 40 life rings around the town. Most of them have locator indicators on them, which basically means if somebody goes to use a life ring, there is information on them that indicates a list of phone numbers, locations, etc. So if somebody needs to phone emergency services, they can, and we can respond to that exact location. Life rings have been used 50 plus times in the Foyle to help save a life, so we would always encourage people, please don't touch them unless absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, no matter what organisation you look at, there's constant reports coming out that life rings are damaged or vandalised, so please don't touch them unless you have to. Almost people hear Foyle Search, they just think of, unfortunately, suicide. You can't avoid the word, and that's what we are. We're a suicide prevention charity. But we're not, we're more than that. We go into schools, we do safety talks from nursery schools up to any age what need us. Talk about how to keep themselves safe at the home, swimming pools, beaches. We use information that's come from over the years through Irish Water Safety Association, RNLI, and our own stuff. We've all combined together to go to do talks and demonstrations. And we've talked to probably upwards of 10,000 people over the number of years during the education groups. Again, that was hampered over COVID, where everything was stopped, but we're hoping that starts back up again.
Final kind of part would be a recovery, so that's if someone has lost their life to the river, we'll search every day until that person's brought home to their family. A lot of the times now, family members come out with us to search, or they go out on their own searches up and down the river. Honestly, I don't think there's a volunteer in Foyle Search that would say it doesn't break your heart a little bit every time you come across them, because you can see the pain and you can feel the pain when you're chatting to them, you know, like the loss and the heartbreak and things like that, and you're there trying to help them as best as you can, but you still feel like maybe it's not enough or so anyway. But you know, at the end of the day, once we get them out, once we bring them back home again, that allows the family to properly start grieving and things. It's a complicated mix of emotions going through that, to be fair, because you have the sadness that you've brought someone home and that they've lost their life and things like that, but you're happy that they are home and that the search can now end and the grieving process can start properly. So you get a very mixed wave of emotions through it. If we say someone's over the railings, that would be a pretty severe call to us that we want to de-escalate, so we want to try and bring them over the right side of the railings, and that's our first kind of step. So we're de-escalating it from the wrong side where they're about to enter the river back over to the right side where we can keep them a wee bit safer, and then try and get them away from the river, try and get them the help that they need, be going through the hospital or one of the other mental health charities in the town, like the Crisis Intervention Centre we would work with quite a lot. I'm just seeing what's going on over here, because the boat's just stalling down there the last 10 minutes and there's a car. I don't know if it's Foyle Search, you see. I think it is. Aye, that is. Aye. Well, it looks like anyway it will be, there's some kind of incident going on. Given that the boat is just kind of sitting in the water and they're not really moving around, they're probably just observing to see what the person's doing. Might be on the wrong side or the right side of the railings. It's hard to tell because I can't see where they are. The car going down with emergency lighting would be our incident commander. So he responds to the scene to try and de-escalate the person if they're over the railings and bring them to a safe place.
What goes through your head now when you see that? Just we're sitting here talking about this happening, or is this happening from this?
The first thing that would go through my head is like just whatever it is, I hope it has a positive outcome where the person gets taken to safety, gets the help they need, and you know that we're able to actually benefit the person.
They have rescued over 400 people, about 460 odd people from the Foyle. And in that time they've also engaged and actually talked people down from difficult situations over 4,000 times. And that's an incredible amount of people whose lives have been saved by the work of Foyle Search and Rescue, and so we owe them a huge debt of gratitude.
I was lucky enough and honoured enough to have served for a year and a half with Foyle Search and Rescue. It really opened my eyes to the problems people were suffering and the situations here in the city, especially along the River Foyle. The amount of stuff I have learned, they more or less helped me throughout my life. How to deal with situations, how to help and support other people was crucial.
They take on what is a very difficult role, not just in terms of the physicality of the search and rescue that they do, but also the emotional strength that you need to be able to work with people who are perhaps having suicidal thoughts and feeling in despair, and yet they intervene at that point.
I personally want to thank Foyle Search and Rescue for that time I spent with them and for the amazing job they're doing.
I think one of the things that we recognise is the importance and the contribution that the volunteers actually make to this service, because without them actually giving so much of their time and their understanding and their commitment, this service wouldn't be able to function to the level that it actually does. So always in our appreciation is the work that the volunteers do. One of the things that's always important to get across, if people do find themselves in distress and actually find themselves at a point where they need someone to talk to always be aware that there are those organisations, those individuals, those telephone services that are there to listen, that are there to help and are there to support you, the likes of Lifeline, Samaritans and many other organisations as well, or individuals. It's good to talk. So when you do find yourself at that point where you are looking for that extra help or need that bit of extra support, always know and always be aware that there are people out there who are willing to help and who are willing to listen.
Working in the schools, we're telling people you have to speak to people. If you're in trouble or if you're suffering, you have to speak to people.
Momentary darkness in your life isn't the end. There is so much that can be done to turn things around. The important thing to do is to reach out and get the support and listen to the advice and the guidance and the counselling that's available. Take that opportunity because what we want to see are people living healthy, engaged and constructive lives, and hopefully feeling at peace with themselves.